Good evening. Bit chilly tonight, huh?
Mm-hmm.
Once again, my name is Odie Hawkins. I'm here to read columns from yesteryear. These were columns that I wrote for the African Times newspaper of 1996, 1997. And basically I'm reading them to try to determine how much truth there was to these columns. And I'm saying that as a way of saying how well they preserve the truth in the columns to fit what is happening today. And this particular column is called The Horse and a Mule Story. Casablanca, that haphazardly scripted romantic chestnut that we must roast as often as we can, was the trigger for a question that lurked in my skull for years. Why does Dooley Wilson, the piano player, have to play such a subservient role in the film? Check him out. He's well-dressed, good-looking, talented, obviously adventurous and intelligent, but he has no romantic interests, no family, no strings attached, only to Mr. Rick, Humphey Bogart. Why does he have to spend a whole movie kissing Bogart's butt? And at the end of the movie, as Bogart strolls off the tarmac with the corrupt official, Claude Rains, Sam is forgotten, dismissed from thought. As much as I like the movie, I begin to squirm every time it comes on the Late Show, trying to reason out why the piano player has to behave in such a submissive fashion. When I was younger, I was totally confused. Racism, my friends gently explained, demanded a demeaning role for the man. Racism. But I gently argued there was no need to have a black piano player to play with. The required racism could have been accomplished by not having any black person in the piece at all. That's the way it's been done in hundreds of other Hollywood movies. Racism exclusively. The fact that the piano player was needed forced me to look at the nature of the white man, black man partnerships, Mel Gibson and Donnie Glover, in the American movies more closely. What was it, is it necessary for the white guy to have a black guy to do his thing with? Over the years, I've made a casual study of these duos and reached conclusions that are not scientifically structured, psychologically perfect, or absolutely correct. Just conclusions. Arbitrarily, I'll start with the nasty old thing that they always do when they do the history of the movies that float to the top, starting with Will Rogers and Stepin Fechit. Well, okay, that was pure early racism at work. But why did Will Rogers need a Stepin Fechit to demonstrate how ugly stereotyping could be? It seemed that they paid Stepin, Lincoln Perry, a lot of money to represent a character that never existed. They could have hired a half dozen people for the price they paid that one. Conclusion, racists are definitely willing to pay for having their disease. The Lone Ranger and Tonto. I was in Spanish 101 before I realized that Tonto means foolish. Tonto means foolish. Oops, that's not supposed to be in here. Tonto, foolish. I Spy. Robert Culp, Bill Cosby. Hard to believe that the producers, Robert Culp, Bill Cosby, or any conscious American could deceive themselves into thinking that they were watching equality in action. Bob, for example, seemed overloaded with romantic scenes and was always the one to determine the course of the show's actions. There was a definite struggle that makes us understand that Bill was in on whatever was happening, was in on it. I doubt if any sensitive viewer was fooled by the cosmetic nature of the relationship for longer than one show. Robert Culp needed Bill Cosby, but didn't need Robert Culp at all. But the producers seemed to think they were promoting racial progress by presenting this perverted relationship prime time. And yes, indeed, it was popular. It was popular. Hard to really say what the Jack Benny Rochester hookup was all about. The usual suspects tried to make us understand that Rochester's gravel-graded voice and his uppity behavior was enough to make us forget that he had no pre-Benny life, none of the usual attachments that we associate with manhood, and that he said, "Yes, boss," more often than necessary. Switching channels, going back and forth. There they were in Paris together. Paul Rand Newman and Paul Sidney Poitier having the Paris blues. Poitier was being used, as usual, as a role model to show enraged African-American males how to cap their volcanoes. Paul Sidney Poitier was pulled into it again, linked to a Tony Curtis with a putty hunk on the ridge of his nose and a semi-cracker accent mounted on his Brooklyn tongue. They went over there. This is the way that they went. This is the way they go. They were the defiant ones. The defiant ones nearly caused a riot in my Chicago Southside neighborhood theater when Poitier has a chance to escape on a speeding freight train and dropped off to be recaptured with the slow-running injured Tony nestled in his arms. 100% of the audience thought he was crazy to sacrifice his freedom to return to a chain gang. For what? No doubt because that's what the script called for. Mm-hmm. Charlie Chan, played by a white guy named Sidney Tolan, had his buck-teeth Mantan Moreland, buck-eyed. I guess the idea was to remind us that the guy playing the Chinese detective was really white after all. Very clever. Oops, that shouldn't be in there. James Garner and Lou Gossett in The Skin Trade. A black man, Lou, excellent actor, is sold by his partner to various people, escapes, and they split the tape. There was supposed to be something funny about this business. Gene Wilder and Richard Pryor and their Silver Streak and the other things. Richard Pryor was in need of ducats. Hard to figure out why Wilder burglarized the public. And so there you have it, the horse and mule story. I'm calling it the horse. We know how horses are made, and we know how mules are made. Only thing is, I understand that mules are sterile. So that one of these, whether it's the horse or the mule, winds up being sterile. We don't have to guess which one it was or which one it is. Not so much these days as it used to be, but that pairing really sort of sent me on.
Wow.
And there you have it.
Yes.
Yesteryear. That was January 1997.
All right. Thank you very much.
We'll get back into this tomorrow evening,
mm-hmm.
and carry on in grand fashion. I'll say to you because I got to run to the bathroom.
Okay. All right. www.oehawkins.com is your website. Itness.